Today I was going to identify a couple more false prophets, and as I reflected on what I was going to speak, I realized that what identifies them as false is really more of the same that identifies all who are false. These false teachers need to be exposed to warn others, but more importantly, people need to know what is true so that they will know for themselves who are our Creator's true servants and who is false. So I was led to post a summary video to simplify the exposure of who is false. Our Creator told us that anyone who leads another to a different version of Him is false. It is all about who He is, because we were created to become who He is. So anyone that leads another to a different set of instructions than His instructions is false, because His instructions were given to us to lead us to His character, His righteousness. So the first order of business must be to identify His instructions, what they are. I've spoken about this in previous videos before. His creation testifies to the writings of the Old Testament, and the writings of the Old Testament testify that Saul of Tarsus is false. If you can accept this to be true, then you can rule out anyone who uses Saul's writings to uphold their doctrines. This separates almost the entire Christian faith as being false. Therefore, their teachers are false. It really is this simple. Some have a hard time believing that this could be true or that it could be possible. But these same people do not have a hard time believing that all of Islam is false or that all of Buddhism is false and such. Yet they have a hard time believing that their own kind is false. The truth is, you should not marvel at this, because the Apostle John recorded that Satan deceives the whole world. The word whole is in the text. It means all or complete. This would include you and me. I know that I was deceived when I was living the lies of Christianity. I was buried in them. So why is it difficult for each of you to admit that you are wrong? It is because of your pride. I have been saying in these videos that it is important to understand why Satan was allowed to deceive all of the world and why he was placed here in the first place. Our Creator gave us life to be instructed by Him, and nobody else. He gave us the choice to receive His instructions or to go our own way. He placed the adversary here to present a different way, and He allowed him to paint the different way into many counterfeits to the truth. This is because He wants us to choose to believe Him, turn to Him for the instructions. So there had to be other choices. Satan and his crew are pawns that have helped our Creator build His temple. As we yield to our Creator's instructions, He gives us protection from Satan and his counterfeits. His temple was built from those who chose to hearken to Him, to be molded in His image, and chose not to hearken to the counterfeits. This is why Yeshua said, "My sheep hear my voice, and they follow me." They don't follow the voice of an impostor. This is why things like knowing when our Creator's appointed times are and showing up for them are so important. He gave us His instructions for when His appointed times are, and we must hearken to those instructions, not to some other instructions. So if another comes along with a different set of instructions like Saturday worship or Sunday worship or any other fixed day on man's calendar, we can know that they are false because their instructions are false. Knowing this truth identifies this group of teachers to be false, and you need to flee from them. This group even includes many who understand that Saul's writings are false even. Additionally, you should not marvel that the deceiver would be able to foresee that some would navigate through the maze and come to a point of understanding that both Saul is false and the truth about our Creator's calendar and when His Sabbaths are. And he did, because there are individuals out there today that have come to accept these two truths and have fallen into other snares. I do not know of any of them yet that are in this group who are calling themselves prophets or apostles, but they are acting in the office of such by instructing people what they think is true, mixing in their lies. They might even be teaching the need for us to keep the Torah. Another thing too, I'll just tell you, they all come in their own name too as well. They certainly are teaching under their own authority. So what identifies this group of people as being false? They are omitting the weightier matters of the Torah, our Creator's righteous judgment, and brokenness over the abominations done in their lives and in their midst, and or they are admitting the true faith of Yeshua, or the true faith of the Logos, or the character of Elohim. These three things are so important in our Creator's plan to mold us in His image, and understanding them is important. They are essential because they program our minds to hunger for His righteousness and to bring us to a point where we become His righteousness step by step. So the people who hide behind keeping the Torah and omitting these three paradigm shifts remain in the deception as well. If they are teaching their lies that all we need to do is obey our Creator, they are false, whether they call themselves prophets or not. They can sometimes be identified by a fascination or a focus on the darkness. This brings up another point I mentioned here. As I witness people beginning to leave the lies, I am seeing some of them get hung up on focusing on prophecies associated with where we're at in time, instead of focusing on the light. These prophecies will define themselves as we move forward. Our focus must be on our Creator's righteousness and His kingdom. Our eyes must be single. Knowing exacting details of the prophecies is not what molds us in His image. Yes, we must believe the prophecies because they are His word and they will come to pass, but our focus must be on learning His will and yielding to it. If we don't, the prophecies will overtake you and consume you. The truth is what sets us free, but just knowing it is not the complete picture either. It is also doing it in spirit and in truth. I'll give you an example. Knowing when the Sabbath is and setting it aside can be empty in and of itself. It is setting it aside in both spirit and in truth that makes it real. Going back to the two easiest things that you can use to identify a false teacher or a false prophet with, you might ask why these things are so important. It is because they are foundational. In Exodus 31, verse 16, we read, "Wherefore the children of Israel shall keep the Sabbath, to observe the Sabbath throughout their generations, for a perpetual covenant. It is a sign between me and the children of Israel forever," our Creator says. You can say whatever you want, but having His appointed time on the wrong day is serious business. I spoke of at least two of the duos who are calling themselves the two witnesses recently in the last few days who are upholding a Saturday Sabbath. These are Ron and Laura Wineland, and a man that goes by the name Witness to the 144,000 and three other aliases, and another man that he knows that he says is Elijah. And there are many others who are calling themselves prophets and apostles who make the Saturday claim as well, such as a lady calling herself Elizabeth Sherry Elijah, and a man calling himself Timothy, and others. Most of these uphold the teachings of Saul, who has been identified as the abomination of desolation as well. But the man calling himself the witness to the 144,000 knows that Saul is false, yet he holds on to some of the perversions of Judaism, such as the Saturday Sabbath. Hopefully you can see how abominable that these two things are, because if you start off with the wrong foundation, you are on a wrong path from the get-go. You do not even have to worry about the detour signs from that point, because from there, every turn that you make, except the turn back to the truth, leads to the lake of fire. You cannot mix in Saul's lies with the truth and still have the truth. Any combination of truth and lies is a different image of our Elohim and His Son, and it's a different path. And having his Sabbath correct is also foundational, because it is a core instruction that leads to His other instructions, and it is the sign of who His children are. And of course we can still bear this sign in vain by omitting the weightier matters as well. I speak of these two identifying tools in this summary because of the simplicity of spotting them on a physical plane, and the simplicity of proving them. They're easily proven. Both of these subjects are easy to prove with His scriptures if you genuinely believe His word, because His word identifies them. And of course I've spoken about these in other videos, so plenty of proof in His word to show what truth is on these subjects. These two are easy to identify and they are easy to prove. However, identifying the omission of the weightier matters of the Torah is more difficult, because these things can be more subtle. The good thing is we can know them by their fruits. An example is if their focus is on the destruction instead of why the destruction is coming, this is a good indication that they're are not focusing on the weightier matters. They're not focused on the weightier matters of the Torah, but instead they're focused on the surface matters, things on a physical plane. They feast on the bread of men. If this is you, examine yourself and ask if you are really hungering and thirsting for your thoughts to become at one with his thoughts, or are you just focusing on escaping the coming wrath? It is important to understand this summary that I have given you today. We need to understand why having the Sabbath day is correct is important. We need to understand what Saul's teachings have accomplished and understand the evil of them. We need to understand why he and his writings are the abomination of desolation. We need to understand the weightier matters of the Torah. There are more each day who say that we are to keep the Torah, and this is good, but people are being grounded in the physical aspects of it and not on what it was given to accomplish. If you teach keeping the Torah and you do not even have the Sabbath day right, there is a problem. Obviously, you are teaching a false version of the Torah. Even if you teach keeping the Torah and you have the Sabbath day correct and all of the physical statutes and such correct, but you have omitted the weightier matters of it, what good are you to his kingdom? The scribes and the Pharisees taught to keep the Torah, and they had the correct timing of the Sabbath back then, yet Yeshua called them snakes and vipers and hypocrites. I have met some of you snakes and vipers and hypocrites today because I have witnessed that you have omitted these weightier matters. You are still focused on the darkness because of its allure and is more appealing to you than the light. Maybe the light bores you. You are interested in saving your necks, but your focus is not on the transformation of your minds. Your focus might even be on the do's and don'ts, but not on the why. The world is full of false teachings, and each of you is going to have to flee from them, but some of you are not seeing the exceeding wickedness of them. You're still holding on, or still friends with the darkness. Maybe you think that there's good in Christianity instead of seeing how it has led billions to a false path that leads to the lake of fire. It is important that we measure things against why we were created and not by man's good, man's standard of good. The summary that I have given today identifies who is walking in the truth and who is not. At least it's some beginning, some preliminary type of things that you can look for. From there, go into the deeper understanding, but certainly these three things expose the bulk of who is false. What is not of the truth is evil, no matter how good it appears on the surface, because anything that is not of the truth is a different version of him and his son. And all other versions of him, of his identity, are false. Some of the snakes and the vipers have called me false, yet the truth that I have been sent to bear witness to proves that I am of the light. But they are not of the light, therefore they cannot hear the truth. Some of them might have been coming to the light, but they fell prey to letting their preconceived ideas stop them, and therefore they were led astray. The problem is, if they continue to teach with the new understanding that they were given, but they also teach their error as being truth, they are just promoting another false belief, because no lie is of the truth. And they become just another ambassador of Satan, added to his confusing cesspool. All of these groups quote the Bible, so do not let that be your barometer. Satan quotes the Bible. Folks, this is serious. It always has been, but now we are entering into a time like the world has never known before, nor ever will know again. Come out of the lies and turn to the truth. He is restoring so much to prepare a people to be delivered into a new time. Embrace it. Lay siege to it and turn to the paths of old that he gave us to mold us in his image. Embrace his offer of forgiveness and let his son's blood atone for your transgressing his path by returning to his path. Forgiveness has a price, and the price is genuine repentance.